Hi, I'm Alice, and this is video 12 of the Breaking Ground series, A Journey of Change. In our last couple of videos, we've been busy on the topic of self-nurturing, and we continue with that in this video. Self-nurturing is one of the most important building blocks needed by Christians who struggle to know the love of God for themselves or who feel untouched by Him. So why is this self-nurturing so important? It's because in life, many of us get wounded. We shut down our hearts on various levels in self-protection. And in this process of shutting ourselves down or interrupting our natural way of being, we become quite disconnected from ourselves. We don't know that we've done this because often we've done this as children. And so for many of us, our closed hearts are all that we know. It is our normal, so we don't see our need to heal. For me, I found that I couldn't enjoy life. I had no reason to be unhappy, but life was meaningless, hollow, like nothing seemed to touch me. I couldn't enjoy holidays or being at rest. I was much happier if I could keep myself busy, if I had something to do. I felt quite dead inside, like I lived life in the grayscale, and I longed to live in color, like other people seemed to be able to. It was like I was surviving, but not thriving, like I was living mechanically in a sort of detached way, but it was my normal. It was all that I knew. As I learned to nurture myself, things began to change. I began to be more content in life, and this opened me to the love of God and to being able to hear His voice for myself. Other participants in Breaking Ground have found the same thing. Learning to nurture themselves has changed their lives and helped them to flourish in their God relationship too. Many of us have a lot of unfinished business. And in that unfinished business sits many buried, unmet needs that we need to take responsibility to help ourselves meet as adults. It's also in that unfinished business where our negative self-beliefs lie. And if we don't address these things, then our hearts don't feel safe to come out of hiding. We live in an imperfect world, and parents themselves are often wounded. So if it's not on the home front amongst family members where we get hurt, then it's at school or within the neighborhood that things can go wrong for us as children. Children are very egocentric. So when things go wrong, they believe it has something to do with themselves. It's about who they are. It's about what they've done. It's their fault. And this is why we can take in so many negative self-beliefs at a young age. But the thing is, that's what we do with our own immature minds. When we're not adequately supported to be who we are as children, then it's up to us as adults to support ourselves and learn how to heal. Nurturing yourself will help you to begin to heal, and you will feel more connected to yourself, more alive, and more content in life. We know that the main cause of our problems is what goes on in our mind, and we've spoken about the need to discipline our minds, taking control of our thought life. We looked at choosing not to condemn ourselves, being quick to forgive ourselves, being kind to ourselves, choosing not to compare ourselves to others, and by choosing to focus on the positive. In video 11, we looked at dealing with our negative self-beliefs. If we don't, then we keep reliving the same painful patterns as we get triggered over and over again. Remember, in dealing with our beliefs, you need to focus on emotions because you feel what you believe. Put words to your emotions and look for the I statements. Those beliefs that say something about your identity or about your state of being. Take these things to God. When God speaks into these beliefs, your heart begins to feel safe to come out of hiding. And you will become more in touch with yourself, able to connect to your world. Another way to nurture ourselves is to take more responsibility for meeting our needs. That's the main focus of this video. But yeah, growing in this ability to nurture ourselves, it can be an uncomfortable process for many people, because it may be more natural for some of us to be cruel to ourselves. But when we take care of our needs, we will live much more contented lives. You'll feel less depleted, you won't feel empty, you won't feel so dead, you won't live like such a shell of a person. For some people, it's easier to keep ourselves very busy, to bury ourselves in work, because then we can keep that dis-ease pushed down. But when we do that, we're not meeting our needs, and this really is unkind to ourselves. We have many needs that we need to take responsibility for: our emotional, social, physical, spiritual, mental needs. They all overlap. They're not separate. So let's look at some of these things. We need to make sure we're getting good quality, adequate sleep. So are you disciplined at going to bed on time, switching off that addictive series on TV? Do you take the trouble to calm your mind? Do you switch off your devices well before bedtime? We need to have good quality sleep. And what about nutrition? Do you take care to make sure that you're having healthy, regular meals suited to your dietary requirements? Some of us are lactose intolerant or gluten intolerant. But also some of us struggle with things like depression, and so we need to stay away from depressants such as alcohol. Or if we struggle with anxiety, we should limit our intake of things like caffeine. Are you taking care of your specific dietary needs? We have this body and we need to exercise it, condition it. Do you plan exercise as part of your weekly routine? Cardiovascular exercise is wonderful to release those endorphins, those feel-good hormones. But we need to have a balanced exercise routine, not just frantic cardiovascular, but stretch or strengthening work or Pilates. For some of us, we over-exercise, and that's also part of keeping that dis-ease pushed down. That's not kind to yourself. We need to approach these things in a balanced way and to have them as part of our weekly routines. I need to take care of my posture. If I don't do Pilates, I struggle with back problems. And what about you? Some of you may struggle with tension headaches. But the problem is the only person pulling your muscles tense is you. So what can you do to help yourself? We need to take more responsibility for caring for our bodies. And then, of course, we have mental, emotional needs. We know that we feel whatever we think. We can easily become a victim of what's going on in our own mind. So make sure that you're living more in your now, that you don't spend all of your life ruminating about things that have happened in the past or worrying about what is to come in the future. We need to take ourselves back into the now every now and again, focusing, of course, on the positive. For some of us, life is all in the head. It's just so much mental processing. Maybe for you, you need to take a break, go and take a walk on the beach, go back, ground yourself in your senses so that you can live in a more balanced way. For some of us, we need to make sure that we're disciplined about stopping work on time, not overworking. Again, some of us overwork in order to escape what we feel, to escape what we need to face. So I don't know where you are, but make sure you have right boundaries around work. But for some of us, we don't have enough to stimulate ourselves mentally, and we need to find something that interests us, something that energizes us, and move ourselves towards these things. We all have a love tank to fill. And I'm wondering, do you know what your love languages are? There's quality time, touch, words of affirmation, gifts, or acts of service. For me, mine is strongly quality time. And the thing is, sometimes we need to coach our partners, our spouses, our friends on what that means for us. I mean, quality time for George is going to see a movie, but that's not quality time for me because there's a screen. We're not actually interacting. So quality time for me is sharing a meal together, or going for a walk together, or playing a card game or something like that together. So I have to coach my husband on what are my needs in terms of quality time. You may need to help your loved ones know how to specifically help your love needs be met. So know what feeds your tank, and also know your own personality. I mean, I'm an introvert. I am not energized by crowds of people. I'm energized by one-on-one time or times of solitude. My husband is an extrovert. He is energized by groups of people and lots of socializing. So I need to make sure that I live a balanced life. Sometimes I have to say to my husband, no, you go ahead. You go and do that with your friends. I'm going to go and have time one-on-one with a friend, or I'm going to withdraw and have some times of solitude. You need to be able to lay some boundaries around your needs. Not always going along with what suits your children or what suits everybody else around you. Sometimes you have to do what helps you meet your needs. For some of us, actually, we're too self-focused. And if that's you, you need to go and give in some way. Go and serve. Because this is very good for our mental and emotional health. Of course, there's some of you that do that all the time, and perhaps you need to withdraw so that you live a more balanced life. In all these things, anyway, we need to plan ahead when it comes to social arrangements. Don't leave it to the last moment, till when you're desperate, lonely, depleted. We need to take responsibility for arranging social engagements ahead of time. And you need to do this, especially if you live on your own, or especially if you work from home. Then, of course, we have spiritual needs. How do you take care of your spiritual needs? I know that I've got to find time in prayer, time in journaling, time in maybe reading the Bible or in worship. If I don't, then I feel like my lights have gone out. Is this part of your regular routine? We need to prioritize these things. Also, something that adds a great dimension to my spiritual life is having a prayer partner or being in spiritual community. Are you taking responsibility to meet your spiritual needs? So in all of these things, don't wait until you're burnt out before you take responsibility to help yourself meet your needs. Take a break, plan ahead, keep on top of it. In the process of trying to meet our needs, we need to be careful what our expectations of others are. Because when our needs are related to those buried, unmet childhood needs, it's often too great an expectation to place on those close to us in order to meet. And if we're going to expect them to meet these needs, then we may end up feeling resentful, bitter, and it may cause problems in our relationships. So when these needs are related to those buried, unmet needs, then we need to take more responsibility for helping ourselves. And also we need to learn how to take these things to God, because God meets those unmet needs very well. He fills those voids like nothing else will. So we need to learn how to go to Him with these things. So in all of these needs, I'm wondering, which ones are you neglecting? And which ones do you need to take more responsibility for helping you satisfy these needs? So in satisfying these needs, we need to know what feeds our tank. You need to know yourself. This helps to inform your choices. Also, knowing yourself, it strengthens your sense of self. It's good for your self-support. So think about what is it? What is it that you like? What is it that you don't like? What is it that you do to have fun? What is it that delights your heart and makes you smile from the inside? We need to know these things because we live such pressurized lives, so we need to make good use of our free time, doing what will feed this tank that we need filled. Many people who are hard on themselves, they really don't know themselves. They're out of touch with themselves. They don't know what they like. They don't know what they love doing. We had one such participant in Breaking Ground. She had to go out, try clothes on in many different shops because she had no idea really how she liked to dress. She'd always dressed according to how her mother told her to. She had to go into the supermarket and try the different brands of stuff because, well, she'd just always eaten what they ate at home. So she didn't really know what she in person liked. She had to go and try out different activities because she didn't know what she actually enjoyed. And of course, this kind of process of exploring is an uncomfortable one, but that helped her to start to get in touch with herself, and she started to thrive in much greater ways. So I'm wondering, do you live too much around an external locus of control? Perhaps you tell yourself, oh, you're just easygoing. You'll just go with the flow. And I'm wondering, are you really? Or is it simply that you don't know yourself? You don't know what you feel. Is it that you don't have the self-support to be in touch with yourself? And you don't have the self-support to make your own decisions? Well, if you find yourself in that place, that's okay. You just need to learn how to nurture yourself. Let me ask you, how do you feel about treating yourself? Can you do that without guilt or discomfort? If you do feel guilt and discomfort, you are someone that needs to learn to nurture yourself. You need to learn to give yourself permission to be. Stop feeling guilty about what you should or ought to be doing. Give yourself permission to enjoy yourself and make a habit of doing something nice for yourself every week. Part of being in touch with ourselves is to remember to take ourselves more fully into our now. So do that on a regular basis. Lose your mind, come to your senses, allow yourself to be so that you can be more in touch with yourself. For some of us, life is just this treadmill. It's very busy, and we need to stop that treadmill sometimes. So on completion of tasks or projects, drink in some satisfaction. Give yourself a break. Reflect. Congratulate yourself before you charge off to the next thing. We need to celebrate these small things in life, the small steps. And I'm wondering also, are you someone that can receive compliments? If you tend to turn compliments into a negative, you really are someone that needs to learn to nurture yourself. And in that process of learning to nurture ourselves, we need to know our values, because then we'll know what to say no to and we'll know what to give ourselves to. When you're in touch with yourself, you're more likely to know what your passions are. The less aware we are of what makes us passionate, the more lost we will be. So when we're in touch with ourselves, we can find out what we're passionate about. And if we move towards these things, we will feel much more fulfilled in life. So in closing, there's many people who feel they don't deserve to be loved, that they don't deserve to be treated well. There's many people who feel like they deserve to be punished, or maybe they even hate themselves. And I'm wondering, if that's you, then you have beliefs in your heart around why you need to continue with these very unkind patterns. Check your heart. Ask yourself, what would happen if I didn't punish myself in this way anymore? What would happen if I forgave myself? What would happen if I chose to love myself instead? You will have many inner reasons to continue with these destructive patterns. Take these beliefs to God. He will coach your heart to feel safe to start to change these patterns so that you can heal. Think about what you want for your life. What is it that makes you happy? Do you want to continue with these patterns? The thing is that it's you that's choosing them, and it's you alone that can decide to approach things differently. You can choose to be kind to yourself. It won't be an easy process, but you can choose it. When we want friends in life, and many of us do, then you need to learn to be a friend to yourself first. For many of us, self-nurturing is not natural for us. It's going to be uncomfortable, but persist in it and guard your tendency to fall back into your destructive patterns. As you nurture yourself, you will soften towards yourself. And then your heart begins to be able to trust relationship and open. And this is what we're made for. We are made for a relationship. We are made for love. So let your heart heal. This is the end of video 12. In our next video, we'll look at perfectionism, and then we close the Breaking Ground course. Thank you for listening.